And right now that's slated to come to an end, like I said, by April or May. So as what happens in most walks of life, you know, as the ending of something comes, a lot of things seem to get going even faster, and a little bit more consideration is given to a number of different items that people have interest in. So as I said earlier, literally right now there are hundreds of different bills making their way through the legislature, through the committee process, public hearings, and then onto the floor of each of the houses for our final consideration. You know, so as I mentioned, there's bills out there on the speed limit. There's bills out there on whether or not we should try juveniles as adults or as juveniles. There's a bill that was introduced just last week that would require individuals who are 75 years old or older to have a 2-year vision test before they get their driver's license renewed every 2 years. Just last week we heard a bill on a proposal that would create what they call death review panels, so that when an individual, a child in our community would die, there would be a formal group that would look at that child's death and try to determine if there's things that could be improved in the community to slow down the number of deaths related to how the child died. So there's just a lot of interesting issues out there right now. You probably have some issues on your mind as well that you can share. And then on top of that, the legislature is going through this discussion on the projected surplus that the Legislative Fiscal Bureau is estimating will be received by the state government over the next 2 years. And what that is that, and I provide a little bit of background on the one-page sheet here. We adopted a state budget back in June of 2013. And that 2-year budget will run from July 1st of 2013 through June 30th of 2015. It's a 2-year budget. And when we adopt the budget, we adopt estimates of what we think our revenue is going to be and what we think our expenditures are going to be over that 2-year period. And then every 6 months, the nonpartisan Legislative Fiscal Bureau, it's a group of fiscal analysts that are hired by us as a state, they kind of look at those numbers, you know, where's spending at, where's revenue at, and they do that every 6 months during the 2-year budget. So back in January, they did an update on their estimates, and they're projecting now that, you know, if things continue to go as they did in the first 6 months of the budget, they're projecting that we will see a surplus of more money coming into the capital than what we're planning to spend, by the tune of about $1 billion. And they provide that information to the legislature, to the governor, and then we have to decide now what we're going to do with that projected surplus. The surplus is being generated mostly because of increased revenue that's coming in comparison to what we have projected. I think it's fair to say that the legislature and the governor were conservative in our budget estimates when we adopted the budget back in June, because we're a little bit more conservative of a group. So we didn't way out there in our revenue estimates. Those numbers are doing better than what we had projected. And so income taxes are coming in better than we thought. Sales taxes are coming in better than we thought. Corporate taxes are coming in better than we thought. In almost every tax area, more revenue is coming in than what we had projected. At the same time, we're continuing to, you know, daily manage the financial resources of the state, expenditures and things like that. I think we're doing a really good job of, you know, not allowing that spending to get out of control as well. And so with that increase in revenue and with our tight fiscal management, again, it's believed that we will have about $1 billion more in revenue than what we had projected back in June. So now, as I said, the legislature and the governor are considering what to do with that. I detail for you what Governor Walker is proposing, and that's simply what that is right now. It's a proposal by the governor, and then last week the assembly basically approved kind of the main elements of what the governor was proposing, putting some additional money into our rainy day fund. I should mention that our rainy day fund, it's a budget stabilization fund. It's in the best condition it's ever been in the history of our state. We put more money into that over the past couple of years. The governor proposes to invest some money in some additional worker training initiatives. We've spent a couple $100 million on some worker training efforts over the past 3 years. The governor's proposing another $35 million in that area. And then the governor proposes a number of different ways to make Wisconsin more friendly from a taxing perspective. And he proposes a property tax cut, an income tax cut, and he has already adjusted our withholding tables here in Wisconsin in regard to our income. And some people have been asking, so I'll just mention, like this morning I was at the meeting, like I mentioned, and someone said, well, isn't that gonna cost us a lot to do that tax relief? And they kind of look back at how, was it Tommy Thompson was governor when we did the checks out to people? Remember there was a surplus at that time, so we sent checks out. We're not going that direction because there was a cost to that. You know, printing the checks and all that stuff, there was a cost. And you know, even though people got $400 back, some people said, was it really necessary to print and send us a check and everything? So what the governor is proposing here is some pretty direct tax relief. The property tax relief, for instance, would be, we would cover a bigger chunk of the technical college costs with state money. So next year on your 2014 property tax, everybody's property tax bill that goes to technical colleges would be smaller, to the tune of about $100 for the average household or property in Wisconsin. So no real cost there. It would just be no cost to implement it. It would just be, we would be putting more money into the technical colleges in comparison to what the property taxpayers currently do. The second provision that the governor is proposing is that he would reduce the lowest income tax bracket in the state. Right now, individuals at the lower income level are taxed at a 4.4 percentage rate, and the governor would propose that we lower that down to 4%. What we have in Wisconsin is an escalating income tax situation, so everybody pays that lower bracket at one point in your income. But it would specifically be targeted to lowering that lowest income tax bracket. And then finally, as I indicated, the governor has already done this. So beginning in April, we will update our withholding tables. So literally what that will mean is that beginning in April's paychecks, anybody who earns an income in Wisconsin, they'll keep a greater chunk of their income. Instead of having it sent down to the state capitol, and then we decide how to spend it or how to give it back to you, we'll just keep it. We'll keep more of your income instead of having it come down to the state government.
Amen to that.
That would we can get into the comments in just a second. Yeah, that would provide the average family of four about $500 more of their income that they keep instead of having it come down to the state capitol. So again, that's kind of the governor's plan. I am never been shy that my biggest reason for running for the legislature 12 years ago is to make Wisconsin more tax friendly and to make it a better place for all of us to live, work, create businesses, and retire. So I'm really excited about the fact that we're in a situation where we can provide some additional tax relief to the citizens of the state. But I also don't want to lose any of the great momentum that we've created over the past 3 years in getting our budget in good order. You know, again, gone are the multi-billion-dollar deficit days. We're now in a structurally sound position in the state, and I think we want to keep that going. We want to be responsible in making sure that we're making Wisconsin as tax-friendly as we can, but also making sure that we're not creating huge holes and problems that we have to fill sometime down the road. So that's the balance and the work that I'm trying to do in consideration of where we go with this surplus. So that's enough talking for me. We want to open it up to you and to your comments.